Hey, everybody. Welcome to Thursday and welcome to Get Paid, the profitable advantage of inclusive diversity. I'm Kimberly and this is Deb. And today
Hi.
we're going to talk about ageism in the workplace. Now, let's talk about that for just a second. Companies spend a ridiculous amount of money recruiting and trying to retain employees. And when for some reason there's this ageism that when you get to 50, all of a sudden you're not as valuable as you were at 49. And so that sounds a little crazy, but when you think about the money that companies invest, to me, I think it would be a profitable advantage to retain those employees who they're composed, they have experience, they can think on their feet because they have experience, and you've spent so much time and money bringing them into the company and seeing them grow. So today I wanted to just ask Deb a few questions, right? So what can an employee or professional who is 50 or above, what can they do so that they're not stuck with this ageism syndrome?
Mm-hmm. And, I think there are things that can be done. I also think, ageism isn't quite the same as it was, say, 20 years ago when I was in my 30s. You always felt like at 50, it was over. And that's not the case now, but there definitely exists, people do start to feel a little uncomfortable and maybe a little out of place in their organizations. Maybe sometimes that's even their own feelings themselves and it's kind of projected. But some of the things that you can do while you're in your company and, is you want to network, you want to continue to make sure that your network is very strong within your company with people of all ages. I love to reach out and have connections and friends who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s, and I'm in my 50s, and I think it works well for them also. You want to make sure that any opportunities that come your way to learn a new skill or to be in a different role or to do something different, even if it's lateral, take it, because that skill could take you into a new role, whether it's in your company or in another company. So definitely do that. And, if there is a class you can take that's outside of the company or a training class within your organization that you haven't really taken advantage of, take advantage of it. Any new skill that you can use that shows you're engaged and interested will put the idea of age sort of to the sideline.
So, you made a good point about the projects, and even if it's lateral, sometimes though, I talk to colleagues and they feel like once they get to that age, they're not offered those new stretch projects or things like that. So that's just something to employers, think about your team as a whole, right? Because there needs to be a balance of obviously diversity of thought, diversity of age, for any company to be more profitable, right?
Yeah. And people don't start, just to take a point from that, people don't stop stretching just because they're in their 50s. You got to keep stretching, and you have to, acknowledge that you're willing to do it.
That's right. So let's just say you've stretched, you've learned, you've dyed, you've done everything, like dyed hair, like, so you look young, you're relevant, and all those things, and something happens, so you are now out there looking for a job. As a recruiter, how can you support candidates who are over 50?
Mm-hmm. So I think, recruiters have to be honest with the people that in any situation with the people that they're working with, but especially if somebody is over 50, you want to make sure that they understand. Don't think about the age as much as the energy and how you're presenting yourself. So when you're out in the search and you're talking to people and you're networking, you want to really have engagement and energy. You want to show that you are keeping up with things, that you're, doing webinars or learning new skills. So me, for example, I'm looking for my next role now, and I decided to teach myself PowerPoint because, I may end up doing some consulting work. And I thought, that's a good skill for me to have. So if you have the time, and recruiters should be, helping you think this through, what other skills can I learn that make sense? what are the things that I'm missing that I didn't learn in my last job that might be necessary for my next job? And then back to networking. I mean, it's one thing when you're in a company, but when you're out of a company, you're going to have to work that network and reach out to all the people that you know and just let them know the situation, let them know what you're looking for, and keep that going. But truly, it's the engagement and the energy and how you present yourself that really becomes much more important than the literal years.
So you've made incredible points. We also have some comments from people who are watching us. So
okay.
One was, don't discount your experience. And I think that is exactly true. There is this comic, and, it's not funny, but it's a cartoon. It's Picasso, and he's sitting at a table in Paris, just doodling on a napkin. And a woman comes by and she sees this doodle, and he just like kind of crumples it up and throws it down. And so she says to him, no, don't throw that away. I would love that. May I buy it? Can I buy it? Right. And so he says, yes, that will be, I think he says, $60,000. And so she's like, what? It just took you two minutes to do that. I watched you. And he said, no, you're not paying me for the 2 minutes. You're paying me for the 60 years of experience.
Yes.
And I think that is such an important thing to remember. People over 50 bring so much to the table. And even to you, Deb, as you're going out and you're consulting, people think, oh, because you don't have a big team behind you, they should pay you less. You still bring this experience to the table, and people need to remember their value, as well as people who are hiring seasoned candidates. They need to remember their value. So go ahead. So
no, I was just going to say, don't mark yourself down. Like in a nutshell, don't mark yourself down, because your experience, to your point, is definitely worth something.
Right. Because your profit is important too, right? Company's profit and your profit. And so what's the bottom line, Deb? What do you want to leave us with?
So I think the bottom line is, whether you are currently in a role and you're in your 50s, or you're out of work and you're in your 50s, the energy you bring is going to be how people receive you. And we all receive positive energy really well, no matter what age you are. So you have to keep that in mind. And the other thing that's most important is to stay relevant. And that means keeping up with what's going on in your industry, keeping up with the people who are doing things in the industry, staying up with an updated network, talking to recruiters, finding out what's going on. So when people ask you questions, you know what to say, and you feel like you are still in the game. And then, you know what, there are going to be times where, especially now during a pandemic, where it might be a little bit tougher for all of us, no matter our age, to get back in the game. And that's when, sometimes you have to start thinking about maybe a pivot.
Oh, a pivot. Oh, I love a pivot. So pivot is a big word. It's a really big word. And I think that's part 2 to this conversation, because we can break it down. We can discuss it. We can talk about our pivots. So let's, we didn't plan this, but I love live. Will be continuation of ageism in the workplace, the pivot. And some people need a reboot, reignite. There's a whole lot around that word. So we'll be back next week with part 2 of ageism in the workplace, the pivot.
Sounds good. I like it.
Right. So thanks for joining us for Get Paid, the profitable advantage of inclusive diversity. And if you have questions, please email us, askgetpaid@gmail.com. Have a fabulous Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Thanks, everyone.
The weekend, baby. We'll see you soon. We'll see you next week here, 11 o'clock next week. Bye. Bye.